Sometimes I think of myself as a planned procrastinator in the sense of I love to have a plan. I love to be organized. I love to be above the curve to make sure I have my balls juggled correctly, ducks in a row, organized, all the things. But I always am optimistic in how much I can complete and what I can get done. And in turn, it is hard for me to always get it all done. So I end up procrastinating or putting things off, trying to reprioritize. And it's just this ever evolving process of trying to be better, right? But I recently had a time frame where I was just feeling really sick. I just could not get certain things done, could not look at a computer screen in the right way, just like was not feeling good. And I had a couple things that were really put out. Like in the sense that I had planned well, so I could just kind of take a step back. And it reminded me how important it is to kind of be this planned procrastinator as a mom, because I was talking to a friend today and she reminded me of the saying, it's not if something will happen, it's when. And I think that that's so important when it comes to just life, but also accomplishing our goals and setting ourselves up for success. Is it's truly figuring out what can you do in this season to help a future version of yourself. And you're not exactly going to know, right? Like you're not knowing what you're preparing for, but you're just figuring out what can I do now. And so in my business world, what that meant was like having some podcasts set up, figuring out how I could repurpose some other things. You'll see some of those coming up, but I want to share with you the reel of how that worked. And also making sure I had social media set up. Who could I utilize from my team for what? What could I lean on in my network and in our resources and our community? So I want to remind you to do this in your business, your life, your job, whatever it is. What are the things that are an easier lift, things that you can kind of batch or prepare or plan so that you are set up for success when something happens, right? And it doesn't have to be like a big thing. It could just be like one of the kids isn't feeling good today, or you're not feeling good, or you're feeling great, but you want to go have a family day. You want to go take the day off and play, whatever it is. So think about the things that you're like, okay, if I were to step away for 2 weeks from whatever it is, from momming, from your job, from your business, from the house, if you were like, I can't do this for 2 weeks, what are the things that would totally fall apart, right? Like you would definitely have dishes still, right? For example, and you would still have laundry. So, what are some ways that you can maybe get ahead of it? Or can you just create a system for when you are behind, it's not all over the floor in the bed or the counter, it's in a spot, right? And it's not that we want to create this opportunity for things to fall apart. But if you know you have a plan or you kind of have this fallback, this plan B, then you're not freaking out or overwhelmed when things shift. And if you're inviting more into your life, whether it's going after bigger goals, changes, evolution, whatever that is, then there's probably going to be this period of transition where you're kind of stumbling to find what that flow is for you. And so when you have a plan of success to be able to plan for the procrastination or plan for when something happens, this gives you that like fallback strategy, right? So think about what that is for you. It's been really fun since having that season of not feeling well that I've been able to come back and be like, okay, how can I do this in other areas? And our house has been something that I've really been thinking about. How can I structure how things are in our house so that if we just like don't want to do laundry for a week, it can be okay. We can look at it. Now, we know the pros and cons of that, right? Because sometimes just staying on top of things and doing a little bit every day is such a better feeling because then it's not racking up. You don't have this overwhelm, if you will, later or this ongoing chore list. But it's really just sitting with yourself and figuring out, okay, if I wanted to stop this for whatever reason for this period of time, what would that look like? And if you're in a job, think about what are some things you have to do all the time that you wish you could get ahead of. I'm thinking back to my last career role, and there were reports that I had to run within a certain time frame each month, and there was no other time I could do it. There was no other way I could do it. But I even just kind of problem solving that, I think back and go, okay, how could I have set up like a system? How could I export the reports or set up a dashboard or made things easier so that it could have worked better? It could have worked differently. So think about what that looks like for you. Are there different meetings that you could schedule differently, different communications with your coworkers or your team? I don't know what it is, but it's super fun to get really curious with thinking about, okay, if I wanted to be a planned procrastinator to allow for that plan B drop, what would that look like? What would it look like to shift some of these things together? So I just want to invite you to take like 5 or 10 minutes today and go, okay, if I turned this thing off, pick one thing like house, work, business, whatever it is. If I turned this one thing off for 2 weeks, I didn't do any of those things I normally do, how could it not feel crazy? How could I make it work? And I think it's a really fun challenge to just kind of play with. So I want to leave you with that. I hope you have a great week, Mama. And I can't wait to hear what this is for you. If you come up with like a really good system, please send me a message on Instagram, share it with me, because that's what this is all about, like sharing the love and support with this community. You can share it in the Mama Has Goals app, go into all the mamas group and go drop it there, because if you come up with this like secret planned procrastination or way to allow us to take a break, like share that with other people. It's so good, right? Okay. Sending you love. I hope you have a great week. Keep going after those goals.